Thank you very much for joining us back on Viewpoints. We are getting quite a few tweets and emails coming in, and we're just going to read a few out. Douglas Gonzalez is saying that he likes to compare Gibraltar's situation to Asterix and Obelix, Gibraltar being the indomitable Gauls. Rosie Peach is saying that she totally agrees with Marilu and doesn't think that the Spanish government expected that Gibraltar would have received the exposure that we did worldwide. Mike Nichols is saying that his estate agent is up 35% on last year thanks to the Spanish Inquisition, and if only we had more property to rent or sell. So quite a few tweets coming in there. We have a question on email from Daniel Cottrell, who's asking that given the slanderous comments, falsehoods and half-truths made by Spanish politicians, Guardia Civil, Policía Nacional, and the media at large, couldn't the Gibraltar government take these to court on grounds of defamation? Perhaps a question to some of the lawyers on our panel?
Well, I've actually, that's the article. If you read my article, that's
yes.
exactly what it was about. And I've identified the legal parameters under which such action could be taken. It would be... wouldn't be an action for defamation, because defamation relates to individuals. But when it comes to incitement to hatred, there are laws dating to 1945, 1966 also, which clearly define the slander campaign that we've been subjected to as it's illegal under international law.
I believe that your suggestion was for the Gibraltar government to compile a dossier.
My hope and my expectation, I'm fairly confident that it will happen, is that within the next few weeks, a number of the worst culprits in terms of the defamation of our people will be targeted and brought down.
Okay. Something that we haven't even mentioned yet, Chris Redhill, thank you very much for mentioning this. Do you think that the EU observers should have said when they were coming, and do you think that if they do find anything, they'll do something when they get back to Brussels? Do we have any expectations from the European Commission?
Look, everyone knows what's going on because you can see it on a webcam. Yeah. I think their visit is symbolic for the fact that they're coming. I mean, I don't think even the Spanish government will decide to have a queue on the day or not. I mean, really, if those EU inspectors return to the EU and come out and say, well, look, everything was fine because I didn't see a queue, well, we know that it was always a sham in the first place. Yes. So, the evidence has been produced to them. So I think it's irrelevant, actually, whether they were notified of it or not, because they know what's happened. The question is whether or not are they going to come with a finding that is realistic, that reflects what we've all been experiencing, and one hopes that happens. And I think that emphasises the point of international support, of British government support. These EU inspectors haven't come out of coincidence or because we've requested it, because David Cameron himself requested that they come. And I think that emphasises the importance of that support, because it is only through the exposure of Spain's campaign at that high level that we are likely to be able to stifle it. Because there are some realistic assessments about our resources in terms of media and so on for a small country of 30,000 people compared to a country of 38 million. So I think that emphasises the point. I don't think it's that relevant whether they knew the date or they didn't, because at the end of the day, the commissioners know what the situation is in Gibraltar.
If we have recorded what's been happening on a daily basis, isn't it going to be a bit ridiculous that on the day that they're here, there are no queues? So today, if the EU commissioners are here, there is no smuggling, there's nothing. And then tomorrow we go back to the queues again, and they're absolutely necessary because to control... I mean, it's going to look ridiculous. There probably won't be any queues. I mean, it usually happens.
Do you think they worry about looking ridiculous?
But I mean, as far as the EU goes, can you believe that, because what the Spanish government is saying is that all these checks are necessary to stop the smuggling, to stop the money laundering and everything else. And on the day that the EU come here, that can be done quickly. But tomorrow it takes hours again. That's going to look, as far as everybody is concerned, not the Spanish government, whether they care, but the EU commissioners are going to think that that's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, I remember once...
It doesn't make sense.
To a woman that I was talking to from Canal Sur, she asked me, I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk because I don't want any lies to be said on my behalf, from me. And she said, what lies? And I said, well, that the queues are to check the tobacco smuggling and that. And she said, well, they are, aren't they? And I said, well, why would it come out in the news in July? What does that mean then? In January, from January to May, they weren't checking any... it's obvious that it's a
and
lie.
Coming in, we bring the tobacco back in. Because they confiscated, then we buy them, bring it back in to sell again.
So that's where I went, ridiculous.
Obviously.
They won't get it right, or whatever they do on Wednesday doesn't. I don't think it really matters.
I'll cast that question back
I would
over
like to say that the problem is the smuggling. We can't. We should have more entry and exit points in the frontier to do better the flow of the vehicles, and we could have better technology to detect the smuggling. And I think we are in this century where technology is in every place, and I cannot believe that we have only a way to detect the smuggling. That is a special Guardia Civil. That they are every car, they stop every car and they register 1 or 2 times, 1 or 2 Guardia Civil.
It's not genuine.
That is nobody can believe that is the only way to detect the smuggling. Then I think it's an excuse. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe that the real problem, because we have long queues, is because we have smuggling.
You do believe it, and nobody in Gibraltar believes it, but do you think that there are people that do?
Yeah.
Yes, I think the propaganda in Spain.
The woman from Canal Sur was surprised.
The propaganda in Spain, and one can't underestimate the importance of this.
Yes.
We sometimes get consumed by the fact that we're in this debate, we understand what's going on, we see it, and we've experienced it for 40 plus years. But people in a northern part of Spain who have very little relationship with Gibraltar, they're being presented by their media en masse with a picture which is so far from the reality. But why should they know different? So what they're seeing is the unpatriotic Spaniards who are servants of Gibraltar, or that's how they're presented. The Gibraltarians who are all smugglers and terrible people, and they're presented with this information day in and day out. And there's a certain extent that they feel, well, the government can't be lying. They might exaggerate occasionally, but it can't be quite lying that much. So I think this is the point, is I think we have to take steps, not just at our level, but at international level, at the British level, the EU level, to counteract that propaganda. Because at the end of the day, these politicians in Madrid, they are, at the moment, Spain remains a democracy. And to the extent that it does, it's answerable to its electorate every 5 years. And it is the electorate themselves that we have to target to change that point of view. And over time, hope that over time we'll change the mindset on Gibraltar. And the sad thing is that really the last year or so has set back that agenda, I think, in the eyes of many ordinary Spaniards who don't have experiences of Gibraltar beyond what they see on TV programmes or on their front pages. So I think it's fundamental.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that what we did with the UK as well, then? At the time of the joint sovereignty, we targeted the British people to be on our side and support us, because we weren't getting the support from the government then at the time. We
have a tweet from Christine Vasquez, and I have to point out this is not the Christine Vasquez that works in GBC, it's another one, saying that mud sticks with the media campaign, and Spain has launched this campaign, and unfortunately some of the mud does stick. Julie Gonzalez is saying that Gibraltar's sovereignty is not for sale and no amount of bullying and harassment will change that. And she points out that Cameron's speech was awesome. And we've got some opinions here on email as well. Yes, Davina Stewart is saying that at what point does the impact of the crisis start affecting our economy and our ability to be self-sufficient? What is the end game? And we'll go to that in just a minute. And John Cruz is commending Susie and Nuria and all the frontier workers. He says he has a lot of respect for people like you who are threatened by their own, but at the same time still stand up for the truth. And we move on to the point that we were moving towards the end of the programme. And Rob is saying, does the panel think that the current situation will be resolved soon? He says he personally doesn't think so. As we said earlier on, Davina is questioning how this will affect our economy. So where do we move forward from here? What's the solution? What can we do, for example, in Gibraltar?
Well, the summer campaign, the August campaign, has been an unmitigated success for the Partido Popular and for Rajoy. So the suggestion that they are going to now back down is fanciful. They're not going to be back down. They have to be made to back down. Now, how do we make them to back down? our enemy, our enemy's enemy is our friend. So the Pepe has a lot of enemies, and that is one silver lining in the major cloud black cloud that we have. The other thing is that Rajoy is extremely vulnerable. He is not generally respected in Europe. We've seen, I hope, the statement made by an MEP in the European Parliament, Mr. Farage, who called him the most incompetent prime minister in modern Europe. He is presiding over a situation of secessionism in Catalonia, which has not been as serious as it is now in the past. The economy is in a terrible state. Employment is not doing well. He seems to be acting on orders from Berlin. So this man and his government are actually quite vulnerable. I think it's up to us, not our Spanish friends from La Linea, to take the cudgels on our behalf, hopefully with London, to ensure that the campaign of defamation is identified as such publicly, and that these individuals are brought to justice. Mm-hmm. Because what we have is an internationally recognized criminal activity, which is incitement to hatred. Okay. Now, that is where we need to go. That is what will hurt Mr. Rajoy and Mr. Marwenda of La Razón, and all, who used to be his press secretary, and who's who's clearly organizing this. But you need to target individuals and attempt to bring them to justice.
Okay. Susi Varanco, how would you like to see the way forward, both for La Linea and for Gibraltar and all the cross-border workers that you represent?
Yes, we need dialogue. We need to be working together, because we need to find we would like to see that people that we represent find a future here, together to Gibraltar, but not only we would like to say that Spanish Madrid, the Pepe Madrid said that we are here working in jobs that nobody wants. No, we would like to have a dialogue in the same status, in the same vis-a-vis, and we would like to find that, and we would like to have a...
You'd like La Linea's voice to be heard?
Yes, but we are not talking about the decision that they have to take in Madrid or something like that. I am talking about the
dialogue at a local level.
Neighborly relations. Neighborly relations. We want to be together. We want to sports events, culture events, everything that, because we need. Every time I say that you cannot laugh that you don't know. Then we need people from La Linea, people from Gibraltar have to be together, and we have to be dialogue.
Okay, Christian Hernandez, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, what do you think your members would like to see happen?
Well, certainly, I think my members would very much welcome a process of dialogue starting and tensions calming down. And for all of us to continue promoting Gibraltar. For example, as a Chamber of Commerce, one of the things that we are now doing is we've commissioned an updated economic impact study report of the effect that the Gibraltar economy has on the Campo de Gibraltar economy. Mm-hmm. One of the main reasons we've commissioned that report is because we are convinced that Gibraltar has a hugely beneficial effect.
You had a similar report in the recent past.
We had a report in 2009 based on 2007 figures. The report that we've commissioned hopefully will be ready at the beginning of the year, and I think that will prove to all that, contrary to what lots of Spanish media is saying, that Gibraltar is actually a leech in Spain and is a negative influence. That
it's actually beneficial.
The converse is true, that it's actually very beneficial. So I think it's important that we all do within our power what we can to promote Gibraltar and to educate people that Gibraltar is actually a very well-regulated, diverse jurisdiction, and that a lot of the things that they're saying about there, if not most, on Gibraltar are simply not true.
What is your vision for the future? What do you think should happen, and what do you think will happen in the next few months?
I don't think that Senor Margallo is just going to decide, OK, now I've had enough. So no. Today's accused, tomorrow will be something else, and they've already threatened us with a banking, and there's always going to be something. What I am very pleased about is the level of support that we're getting from the British government this time, not just in words, and it was lovely to see Cameron on there, but in actually going to the EU and complaining, actually picking up the phone and saying, you got to stop this, taking it forward. They've already threatened to take it to court, threatened with legal action if they don't. This needs to continue, because every time we get Spain coming against the Spanish government doing something about Gibraltar, unless we actually have the British government, who, at the end of the day, we can go to Brussels, they don't really listen to us, but if Cameron goes, yes, they do. At least they listen more. That needs to continue. Every time we get an action against us, we need the British government to take it to the Europe and to take it to the courts if necessary. It's the only way that they're going to stop. The only way that Spain's going to back up is they're made to stop. They're not going to do it willingly.
Do you think the Foreign Office can be trusted? Because although the politicians have expressed their desire to back the people of Gibraltar and the aspirations of the people of Gibraltar, but the Foreign Office isn't just politicians, is it? There are
We've
officials
always called
there,
them the Mandarins. No, I have been very surprised, because when we went through this before, and as I said, I was very involved at the time, and I remember saying when I spoke in Westminster, we don't trust the Spanish government, but the people of Gibraltar don't trust the Foreign Office either, because at the time they were backstabbing us all the time. But it seems to have changed. I don't know whether it's a fact that the British government at the moment, backs us so completely, then at the end of the day, it's difficult for the Mandarins to go totally against them. When you're sending mixed, like they were before, one minute they were saying, oh yes, we respect you, your right to serve, and so on, and on the other hand they were proposing joint sovereignty. So what do the Mandarins care? At the moment it's much more staunch, the support. The signals that are being sent to the Foreign Office by the ministers, I don't think are mixed, are quite clear. So possibly that is the reason why, at the moment, the Foreign Office seems to be far more supportive of us than I've ever known them to be. I don't know whether the rest of you agree, but...
Nicholas?
Well, I mean, I would like to think that this is we're going to see the end of the Pepe's tactics, but I tend to agree with Charles. I don't think it's going to happen. There'll be a lower of temperature for a while, and it'll come up again. Look, the concrete blocks didn't make this happen, nor did the fishing dispute, but I think we must box clever. I think we have to adopt, and I think in the last few weeks, I've certainly in the statements the Chief Minister's made, in the visit to Downing Street, there's been sensible, measured discussion. I think we must engage in a dialogue that's safe, if only to expose the vitriol and the nature of the Spanish politics or the Madrid politics. So I think, importantly, that we box clever, and we have to do that. There's a bully in the room. If you have to fight him, do it, and do it as hard as you can, but don't go and pinch him, because it doesn't make any sense. So I think there's a question of that. Then there's a question of gathering united support, and I think there has to be a strategy. It needs to be thought out. Last time we had the Council of Representative Bodies, where really the whole of Gibraltar came together in a strategy to adopt towards, in that case, the UK. I think I'd like to see a similar approach at a local level. But I perhaps differ with Charles here. I do think that those in Spain who understand the reality have an obligation to do something about it. So I would like to also see unity at a regional level, and it's not just La Línea. I'd like to see unity at the level of San Roque, Algeciras, all the area, because they have an interest in Gibraltar's prosperity beyond what their politicians are saying.
Do you think that they can be damaged by party politics?
Well, they might, but I think the individuals and those who work on Depend Gibraltar have an obligation, albeit moral at the very least, in the same way that we would to support them, to do what it can to spread the message. So I think it's a different level. It's at the highest level, at the EU level, at the UK level, international level. It's all at a local level. And I think it's also at the day-to-day level. So I think that obligation, I'd like to see, cross-party, cross-border associations telling the truth. And I'd like to see an affirmative action in the way that Charles has spoken. I mean, I don't think we can allow just to step back and allow things to hopefully subside, not with this legacy of hate that has been created. So I think it has to be a strategy which has to be well thought out from top to bottom, and we have to invest in it, and that includes resources, and we have to understand, last time we did it, we had to spend quite a bit of money. But, we have to do that, because I think we can't underestimate the impact of this, and not just short-term, but over a period of time. So I think it has to be a very united front that we have to adopt, and a strategy that we have to adopt.
And at a local level, at a political local level, do you think that sort of like cross-party unity exists?
Well, I'm glad to say it seems that at the moment there is a united position. Since last summer, there's only two parties, and I think that they seem to be roughly on the same wavelength. They may have different styles as to what they would have done or so on, but I think it exists, and I think it needs to go beyond that, because I think, as in the last occasion when we were facing a big challenge, it went beyond the existing parliamentarians, it went to interest groups. I mean, it was very effective for Gibraltar to send a common message. The council represented bodies represented from, I think it was from the pensioners all the way through to trade associations. And I think, therefore, we need to send a common message, because that's always helpful. And in that message, it has to be the truth, fundamentally, and we have to spend time to engage those who would choose to ignore the truth. So I think but there is unity, and I think that all we can do is encourage that.
Just following very quickly from something he said, which I meant to say and I didn't. I know, and I think it's important in case I forget. I think people like Susie and Nuria and Hema and others that are coming out and actually saying the truth are very brave, because at the end of the day, at the moment, there are lone voices coming out.
I picked out one or two emails and tweets that you've received,
and I think that has to be recognised by us.
There are more people who have thanked.
But they're coming out on television. Hema's also coming out. There have been newspaper articles, and they are suffering the wrath from their own countrymen. And to be honest, I think you're very brave. And on my behalf, I'd say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nuria, your thoughts on how you feel that the future should evolve and perhaps how it will evolve?
Oh, if I had the will evolve, the will. No, I believe all the like the report on the commerce and any official information is always very handy for us when we're trying to defend our truth about Gibraltar. Because you go around saying actually it's Gibraltar is important for the economy. Oh yeah. And if you've got things to back it up, all of that is useful. On my level, on the Aztec level, I would like to manage to get more unity amongst all the Spanish workers here. And
do you think that's possible?
I hope. That is definitely a hope that I have, to find out why people are so lax. I understand that it is sometimes fear. Sometimes it's that your core beliefs maybe they are more right-wing, but you're working here because you need the money. But maybe a unity in the actual dialogue, the belief in dialogue, the belief in that you can have whatever belief you want, but you can live with people and you can work with people. Get more people out there so that we can get that message out. Because when the fishermen came out, for one boat, there were 50 people, and for 8,000 workers or 10,000 workers, there's like 3 of us. So, we need to... Somebody in Spain needs to see that when they talk about Spanish workers in Gib, there's a whole big group.
There's a lot more people represented than just...
And we need to find out why people aren't...
But now, in La Línea, we are suffering, our businessmen and women are suffering, because Gibraltarian people are not going to La Línea to spend money, and for our local economic, that is very, very dramatic.
Yeah, it's very big.
Can I just add one thing, and I should have said it before, but we also have to remember that the British government have an important role to play in terms of their role in Gibraltar. They have obligations under our constitution, and they're far-reaching. And I think that beyond the statements, and I think it was Mary Lou's point, beyond the statements, which are very comforting, there needs to be affirmative action. And perhaps there is behind the scenes, but I think there has to be a very affirmative action to basically resolve the issue, because at the end of the day, the United Kingdom is a strong power still. In Europe, it's a strong power with its relationships with the UK, certainly much stronger than Spain, and increasingly the balance very much favouring the UK as it comes out of recession. So I think it has the political, economic muscle, if it wants to assist us in the process of turning back the tide over the last few months. And I think that they must remember that they have an obligation to us, and it shouldn't be forgotten.
Okay, well, on that note, we have to end our bumper 1.5-hour marathon of debate. But thank you very much all for joining us. Charles Gomez, Susi Barranco, Cristian Hernandez, Marilu Guerrero, Nick Cruz, and Nuria Gomez. Thank you all very much for being on the panel tonight. And thank you for joining us on Viewpoint tonight. Thank you very much for your emails and tweets. They're all greatly appreciated. We can't read them all out, I'm afraid. There are quite a few, and a lot of them do tend to border on the same subject, so I've had to condense them into individual tweets for representing all of those that say pretty much the same thing. But thank you very much for joining us on Viewpoint. It's the first of the season. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We'll see you then. Good night.